What is up on the rise? I'm here today to go over my racket review of Babolat's 3 main lines of their performance tennis rackets. I'm going to give you a little review of all the 3 rackets and how I believe they felt and how I believe they played. And then I'm going to tell you what racket I am switching to. I used to play with a Headspeed MP, but now I'm switching to one of these 3 Babolat tennis rackets. So, to keep everything even between all the sticks and all the different frames, I kept my normal string that I've recently been using, the Genesis Tornado, and I strung all the rackets at 53 pounds tension. So I had a nice, even, uniform idea of how all the rackets felt compared to each other, you know, apples to apples. I started hitting with the Pure Strike. I thought it felt really good. Something that I noticed with all these Babolat rackets is that they all have a very healthy amount of power. My Headspeed Pro, sometimes I felt like I couldn't get enough on the ball, but all 3 of these Babolat rackets, I definitely could generate a good amount of pop on them all, swinging pretty freely. But with the Pure Strike, it felt good. I noticed that on my forehand side, I play kind of a more spinny game with my forehand. I kind of struggled a little bit generating as much spin as I'm normally used to with the Pure Strike on the forehand side, so sometimes in more defensive positions I kind of had to finish over my head or, you know, kind of figure out some ways to kind of whip it and generate a little more racket head speed to get a little more spin on the ball. So it took me a little bit getting kind of used to it, but I was able to make some adjustments just with my follow through and whipping it and, you know, getting a little, really focusing on getting a little more spin on it. Backhand felt solid right away. My backhand, you know, I just kind of keep it really simple, just straight, like a take back down right through the ball. So my backhands almost always feel solid regardless of the racket, but I definitely could not do a high heavy spin ball as easily with the Pure Strike on the backhand as well. Something that was nice with the Pure Strike is that it did help when I had a higher ball that I could kind of flatten out and drive a bit. That it felt really good on my forehand side, kind of driving through, flattening that ball out a little bit when I could play offense. And that's something normally I kind of struggle with a little bit due to my swing path kind of works more to like a heavier ball. So that was something that was really nice about the Pure Strike racket. Serving felt great. Likewise, you know, kind of that second serve, you know, I think if I played with it more than a week, I'd really start to get used to that second serve, getting a little more topspin on the ball. But overall, felt really good, really responsive to what I was trying to do with it. And, you know, volleys felt great. Overall, a very, very solid racket. The next week I started using the Babolat Pure Drive. Pure Drive felt really good. I think what I noticed is that right off the bat, I was hitting a very, very solid ball. I mean, it was a much bigger, stronger ball than compared to the Pure Strike right away. The one thing I did notice, first few days hitting with it, I definitely struggled controlling it and hitting my spots. With the Pure Strike, I was really very clean with my spots. Like if I was aiming here, I was hitting balls really close, really tight to where I was aiming. With the Pure Drive, I was kind of flying balls a little bit on the forehand, but definitely a lot more pop. Backhand felt great. Slices, same thing, like defensive positions. This is something I would adjust to if I played with it more, is that all my balls were kind of sailing just a little bit, just because it just had a lot more pop and natural power coming off the racket. Serves really felt good. I was ripping some serves with this thing. I mean, they were buzzing when I was hitting these serves. Second serve felt great too. I was able to get some good spin on it. Overall, great racket. Definitely a lot of pop. I was able to generate a healthy amount of spin, so I think if I played with it more and kind of got the feel for it, I would definitely be able to get that ball and play and like not fly my forehands nearly as much. My last week, I used the Babolat Pure Aero. Right off the bat, felt awesome. Definitely this racket like played into how I play, like to play with my forehand. I was able to spin the ball, kind of go heavy balls. When I was in trouble, I could definitely kind of maneuver the ball or work the ball how I wanted to on my forehand side. It just felt really good. Volleys felt great. Serves felt awesome. I was able to, like, almost a great racket for me personally, that I was able to get spin and keep keep a good amount of power, which was awesome for me. I think the one thing that I did notice a little bit is backhand. I think it took a little bit of adjusting to being able to flatten my backhand out a little bit differently, because I was almost like, I was getting a good amount of spin with it, and on my backhand, when I flattened it out, I was kind of playing them shorter in the court just because it was dipping down a little quicker. So I think I play with that a little bit. I definitely would get used to it, but just something I noticed right off the bat relative to the other two rackets, that with my drive backhand, the Pure Strike and the Pure Drive are going deeper in the court, with the Aero Pro is kind of dipping a little shorter later. So, but that's an adjustment that I could definitely end up making when if I kept playing with the racket. Basically, if I had to use one simple word or sentence to describe the rackets, is the Pure Drive. Man, you're getting a lot of power. Definitely getting a lot of power with the racket. Strong ball. You can generate that spin, but it's going to take you a little bit of time to learn how to control it, I think. But power would be the big word to describe that. I take the Pure Aero. Spin, very spin friendly. I'm able to keep good amount of pop, but I'm able to kind of maneuver the ball and play my spinny heavy forehands and stuff like that. So spin is the word I'd use for that. And then the Pure Strike, I would say it's kind of like an in-between of the two. Like, you're getting a little more pop than Pure Aero, but you're also getting a little more spin than the Pure Drive. So I think very, very playable racket, kind of. If you have someone that just has a game, maybe they're not trying to do a lot of heavy spin balls, or maybe they don't need that much pop to their game, I think the Pure Strike's kind of a healthy in-between of the two rackets. The racket that I decided to go with and switch to from my Head Speed MP is the Babolat Aero Pro. Right away when I started hitting with this thing, I was like, oh man, this is kind of really fitting into my game. I'm spinning the ball, I'm spinning my forehands, they're dipping in. Something I normally struggle with a little bit is my approach shots, or kind of my transition shots, if you want to call them that. This, I was able to swing hard at them, and I felt very confident I could get enough spin to have it dip in the court. It was just really, really good racket. Serves felt good. It's going to take me a little bit getting used to that second serve. I was almost hitting them too thin and they weren't really going anywhere, but that's something that I'll get used to when I play with it more. Definitely, I'm switching to the Babolat Aero Pro. I'm super excited about it. It just felt great with my game. Make sure you stay tuned, because coming up, I'm gonna be demoing, in this racket, I'm gonna be demoing all three of Solinko's new tennis strings in a 16 gauge, because that's what I use. I'm gonna use Hyper G, Tour Bite, Confidential, and I'm gonna go over and kind of review all of them and say how they all feel as well. And later on, I'm also going to be putting on a leather grip, kind of customizing my racket. Leather grip here, some lead tape up on the racket, and you can see what I'm going to do to my racket to help with my tennis game.